Welcome to Baselines to Sidelines, where I break down the game from the dirt of the diamond to the decisions in the dugout. Today we're heading to the desert to talk all things Colorado Rockies spring training. The Rockies are off to a strong start this spring. The bats are alive, the energy feels different, and there's a little buzz building around this roster. But let's be honest, we've been here before. This is the beginning of something real, or are the Rockies fans being handed another dose of springtime false hope? We'll also dive into one of the biggest changes in baseball this year, the new ABS challenge system. What does it mean for pitchers? What does it mean for hitters? And how could it impact a young Rockies roster still trying to find consistency at the plate and on the mound? Plus, there's a legitimate position battle brewing at first base. Charlie Condon, TJ Rumfield, Blaine Crim. 3 different paths, 3 different skill sets, one job. Who's separating themselves? Who fits this roster long term? And what should Rockies fans actually be watching for beyond the box score? If you love baseball analysis with a little edge, a little realism, and a lot of passion, you're in the right place. Let's get into it. This is Baselines to Sidelines. Now, before we get too carried away with spring stat lines and position battles, let's zoom out for a second because one of the biggest storylines this season isn't about a player at all. It's about the strike zone. This year, Major League Baseball is rolling out the ABS challenge system. And whether you love it, hate it, or are still trying to figure it out, it's going to impact every single game, from framing, pitch sequencing to late game strategy. It isn't a small tweak. It's a fundamental shift on how the game is called. And when you're talking about a young team like the Colorado Rockies trying to build confidence and consistency, that matters. So let's start there. Let's break down the ABS system, what it is and how it works, and what could it mean for the Rockies this season. So the ABS system really has been the talk, really, because this is kind of where we're starting to see the big league clubs playing with it a lot. I know last year during spring training, the fans got a little taste of it when it came to the ABS system because they had the spring breakout game and they used the rules that they had been using down in the minor leagues with the ABS system down in AAA and AA and all those places. But now this season, the ABS system is being implemented full time, and spring training is kind of really letting everybody try it out, do their tweaks to it, and get a strategy, get a feel. Because I think going in, everybody thought that like every inning, I think initially a lot of people were thinking every inning teams were going to have like a certain amount of challenges or whatnot. Nope, it's 2 challenges the entire game. You have 2 chances to challenge a ball or a strike. That's it. And so it's been very fascinating to watch how the players are talking about how they're talking about the ABS system, how they're trying to get a feel for, they know their strike zone and they know what they're seeing, but it's about getting a feel for when to challenge. Because if you're right, great. If you're wrong, that's not good. And so I know one thing that's being talked about is pitchers are really not calling or are really not challenging at all. The pitchers are mostly letting the catchers do the challenging. The catchers are going to be the ones that if they feel a ball or a strike is or if it's off the plate, they're going to challenge it if they feel it. The pitchers are not going to do that. You will see slim to none as far as the pitchers challenging. So it's mostly going to be the batters and the catchers challenging this one. So that I found very interesting, but at the same time it makes sense. You actually heard Chris Sale in an interview talk about where he thinks every single pitch is a strike. So he can't he doesn't really have that where I mean he's a smart, brilliant pitcher, do not get me wrong there. But he doesn't just, want to burn the two challenges right, quickly. Nor do the managers. The managers are telling these guys to be very picky about when to challenge, when to not. You're going to probably see a lot more late game challenges than you're going to see early game challenges. Unless there's something just absolutely egregious early in game, I don't think you're going to see a challenge early in game too much. I know during the spring training, I've been noticing, at least on the Rockies side, you've been seeing challenges kind of pop up about the fifth, sixth inning. I think coming into the 40-man roster when everything's locked in, you know, we're not going to be seeing um four shifts a game and position changes. You're not going to be seeing that during the regular season. Then you're going to start to see challenges start to pop up, maybe seventh inning at the earliest, but I would expect it more the eighth, ninth inning. So that's going to be one that I'm really excited to watch and pay attention to. Also, there's going to be a lot of talk about who's going to be allowed to challenge, who's not going to be allowed to challenge. I think there's been talk about how there could be a fight in the dugout between veteran players and younger players, like especially if a younger player burns a challenge or burns the last challenge and the veterans are left with nothing. That could be very interesting because they the veterans want to have the control, and they're going to be very particular about wanting to have their challenges, especially since you only get two in the game. That is it. Whether you're successful or not, it's two and that's it. Once they're burned, it's gone. So that one's been very interesting. And rookies especially, even right now in spring training, unless you are 1,000% confident, 1,000% confident, you will not challenge. They are not allowed to challenge. The managers have already stated that, not just with the Rockies, but with other organizations. I know the Braves have talked about it, and I want to say I've at least also heard the Cardinals talk about it as well, where rookies just really aren't going to be allowed to challenge. The managers, the coaches have outright told them, nope, you're not challenging. So I'm really. This ABS system has been very fascinating. I know 2 days ago, the Rockies had a game against the Kansas City Royals, and the Rockies, both of their challenges came from Hunter Goodman, the catcher, and he was challenging, both of them ended up being balls, but he was challenging for a strike, and so it wasn't the hitters, it was the catcher both times challenging. So as this gets later into the year or gets closer to opening day and then we get into the regular season, I'm very, very fascinated to see how this ABS system is going to be, and how this also affects, I think one thing that's not being talked about a lot is how this is going to affect the managers chirping at the umpires. Now, I'm not saying this is going to stop managers from chirping at the umpires, because there's still going to be that. I mean, you already saw that quite a good amount with Warren Schaefer. I mean, I'm trying to think of some of the more hot-headed managers right now. You're still going to see the chirping. You're still going to see the coming out and face-to-face arguments with the umpires. But does it cut it down a bit? And also, does it make it more to where the managers are putting this more in control of the players? And well, I mean, it absolutely is. I think I phrased that wrong. It's more of how much will you see the managers coming out to bark about a ball and a strike and really defend their player. I think you'll see it if they've already burned both their challenges. I think absolutely you'll see that. So it'll be a lot of late game stuff. You're not going to see too much early game managers coming out to argue with the umpires. So I'm kind of excited to see that. And yeah, this is going to be a lot of fun. I don't have too much else to add to that, but it's going to be a fun one to keep my eye on. All right. The A-Bit, now, I think I've talked about everything I can talk about, but with that, so now I want to get to, I think the ABS system is going to grab headlines because it's new, it's different, it's measurable. Every challenge is instant feedback. Every call is transparent. And that transparency trickles down into everything else, because spring training isn't just about results. It's about evaluation and what the staff sees, what they trust, and who they believe in when the games start to count. Which brings us to the human side of this. While technology is shaping the strike zone, the most important decisions are still being made in the manager's office. And if you're trying to carve out a role on this roster, you better be making an impression on Warren Schaefer. So, in my opinion, guys like Zach Veen don't just need solid numbers this spring. They need to show readiness, consistency, maturity, that they fit what this team, that Schaefer wants in this team. So let's talk about the players who have the most to gain right now and what it's going to take to win over Schaefer before opening day. So, I mean, the Rockies are absolutely, I find it funny that a couple of the Rockies games that they have just absolutely gone off, it hasn't been a televised broadcast or even a radio broadcast. I know both of Zach Veen's walk-off home runs were not televised or radio broadcast games at all. I'm like, that is such a Rockies thing, where there's literally no eyes on the Rockies except for the people in the stadium, and they're just going off. Because the past 2 days, where the Rockies have played the Kansas City Royals, and then they also played, forgive me, who in the heck did they play today? The Guardians, that's right, I apologize. Where they played the Cleveland Guardians, they were not pretty games. The pitchers really struggled with location. Dollander he was struggling with what he struggled with last year, where he would get into 0-2 counts, and then he just wouldn't be able to finish it off. He wouldn't be able to finish facing that batter off. It would either end up in a walk or a hit. I don't know. I have to kind of review some more film, especially this game. I didn't get to watch too much of um, him on the mound today. I'll be going back tomorrow and watching that. But he is, I don't know if he's just like trying to really push it and like muscle the ball into the strike zone or what. I know he has that really good fastball. Sometimes it can be a little tricky with location. And then he has that filthy curveball. He really has a nice curveball that when he complements it nicely with the fastball, he has lethal stuff. And I'm very intrigued to see why is he struggling like this. But yeah, it's so he has something to prove. I think he's going to be on the roster. Dollander is not one of the players I'm talking about when it's needing to prove something. I know Jaden Hill is one of those guys, which he had a little bit of a rough day today as well. Because I know he gave up a home run. Yeah, Jaden Hill gave up a home run. He did have 3 strikeouts, 1 walk, 2 earned runs off of 2 hits. So not the greatest. I mean, just in 1 inning, he technically has a 27 ERA. So that's not great, but and I'm not saying Dollander had a bad day, had a horrible day either, because he did 2 innings, had a hit, had an earned run, and 1 strikeout. So he's not terrible right now, but he definitely has some stuff to improve on, and stuff that I'm going to be looking for. Just location. That's going to be the biggest thing with me when it comes to Dollander is get that fastball in there or get that curveball in there. Like finish off the at bat, finish off that batter. Because he can get to 0-2 really easy. He did it several times today. But he needs to finish it off. He needs to finish off these batters. So that I'm kind of like, kind of pounding my head against the table with. But yeah, back to Jaden Hill. He definitely struggled a little bit last year, and I think he's going to be one that I'm going to be looking at for, can he impress? Can he take that next step forward? Because I know another player that I'm talking about is Zach Veen. Zach Veen, he has had a huge transformation. I talked about it in the last episode where the dude put up 45 pounds of good weight. He's looking better. He's looking healthier. He's having a good spring training. Whether it's enough to make the 40-man roster remains to be seen. I think he's right on that edge where if he makes the 40-man, I'm going to go, yeah, I absolutely see that. I'm not going to disagree with that. But if he is, back down in AAA, then I'm going to go, yeah, I kind of also see that too. Because I think there's still a lot of harken back to last season when he got called up and he had a couple of nice hits, but then it was just swing and miss nightmare, swing and miss nightmare, swing and miss nightmare. And it was almost predictable swing and miss. I've talked about it in a previous episode where you could see the pitch sequence. They would get him, he would either, they would get him kind of hopping on or trying to bite on a pitch down low, and they would come with a fastball high inside and swing and a miss. Like, it just, without fail, he could not sit off of those pitches high inside. even if they were blatantly balls. And I'm not, I'm not gonna, you're never gonna hear me dog on a hitter for, swinging out of their shoes for a strikeout. There are going to be times where I'm going to go, really, you shouldn't have swung at that. But I never played college ball. I never played pro. So you're never going to hear me, barking about how did you not see that pitch. But at the same time, he's a big leaguer. He is a big time guy. He needs to have better plate discipline. He's starting to show it. He absolutely is. And I'm really, really impressed with that. I know one of his at-bats today against the Guardians, he fought off 4 or 5 pitches that were all foul balls, held it to a 2-2 count. Unfortunately, he struck out looking, but he still showed much more plate discipline than last year. So I think he's getting to the point of making that 40-man roster. I just don't know at right this second on March 1st, 2026 is when I'm recording this. I just don't know if it is enough to say yes or no. That's kind of where I'm at right now. But I'm really excited to see where he goes with this, and I'm really excited to see him come into his own. Another player that I think he kind of has some stuff left to prove is Carson Palmquist. He didn't have a horrible day today. He had 2 hits, 1 earned run, 2 strikeouts, 3 ERA for that. I'm not going to be upset. I am not going to be upset at all. I think he is really showing some stuff. I'm really liking what Carson Palmquist has brought, and even Sean Sullivan. Sean Sullivan got in a little bit of work today. He's been one of my favorite pitchers down in the minor leagues. Like, Sean Sullivan has some filthy stuff. I don't know if he's going to make the 40-man roster this year. I would be a little surprised. Actually, I'd be a lot of bit surprised. But man, is Sean Sullivan showing up. I think he has a real shot of either getting a call-up this year. If not this year, absolutely. If there's baseball in 2027, absolutely next year. Sean Sullivan easily has that chance. He is one of those that I'm going to be keeping my eye on. Again, he is not one where I'm going to sit there and say, oh yes, he absolutely is going to make the 40-man roster. But both him and Carson Palmquist are absolutely starting to show up. And yeah, he is really just awesome. I'm on Baseball Savant right now looking at everything for Carson Palmquist, and he's sitting in that poor to average range. It's it's not great, but they also it was a small sample size, but he's having a decent spring training, and he's one of those that I'm really excited to see. And I hope he has a better season this year than last year. I know in 2025 he ended with an 8.91 ERA out of 9 games. So it's and only 27 strikeouts, but he him and Sean Sullivan are going to be the two that I'm going to be paying most attention to outside of the Rockies' main starters and main bullpen. Also, Brody Brecht is going to be another one I'm going to be paying attention to, but Brody Brecht he's still probably 2 years out. Like, if baseball happens in 2027, I think that's when Rockies fans can expect Brody Brecht, but I don't think any earlier. That's just my opinion. I could be absolutely wrong, and if I am wrong, I will be pleasantly wrong. Like, make no bones about it. Whatever I say, if I'm wrong about, I'll own up to it. I absolutely will own up to it. That is one thing that I have never been shy about, and I always tell people, if you feel like I'm wrong about something, come talk to me. I'm not that hard to find. Come talk and we'll have a great discussion about baseball. But yeah, those are kind of my players that I'm keeping a pulse on, you know. They're going to be one that I'm excited to see. So when you talk about guys trying to win over Warren Schaefer, it kind of naturally leads to the bigger picture. Because individual battles are one thing. Well, I also want to transition into, actually, before I transition to what I was thinking I was going to transition to, I want to transition to the first base battle going on between Charlie Condon, TJ Rumfield, and Blaine Crim. Now, Blaine Crim, I'm kind of already, I don't want to use that analogy, but I'm putting him on a shelf right now. I'm putting him, Blaine Crim, you're over here. He has the oblique injury. Really haven't seen him at all spring training, so he's going to be in the mix. He's absolutely more than likely going to make the 40-man roster. However, now it's going to be, who is that next person? And can they jump Blaine Crim, which they're starting to. And that's Charlie Condon and TJ Rumfield, man. They're showing up. Like, it's to the point where there's a article from one of the Yankees reporters about how the Rockies might have already won the trade for TJ Rumfield, because the Yankees traded for Angel Shivi. The Rockies sent Shivi to the Yankees, and the Yankees sent TJ Rumfield. And TJ Rumfield has been having a spring training already. In 7 games with 18 plate appearances and 14 at bats, he's gotten 4 runs, 5 hits, 4 RBIs, 2 walks, only a strikeout, a 357 batting average, 1,000 slugging, 1.500 OPS, and a 500 on base percentage. Like, the dude is starting to show. And he was one that I was already intrigued with when it came to when the Yankees got him, because in 2025 down in AAA, in 138 games, he had 587 plate appearances with 499 at bats, got 85 runs off of 142 hits, and had a 285 batting average, which, I mean, nowadays, anything above a 270 is a relatively decent batting average. So a 285 batting average is pretty damn good. 378 on base percentage with a 447 slugging, and he only had 1 home run. Well, sorry, I was wrong. He had 16 home runs. I was looking at the wrong stat. He had 16 home runs, but he's more of a contact hitter anyway, and that kind of is more what Paul DePodesta and a little bit Warren Schaefer are looking for more anyways, is more of those contact hitters, getting singles, doubles, driving the ball into the gap. That's kind of what they're looking for right now. Less of the for the listeners on, for the listeners of the podcast, I'm air quoting this, the Blake Street Bombers. Now, don't get me wrong, I love the Blake Street Bombers. I think any Rockies person will forever love the Blake Street Bombers, but I just don't think that's the approach that the Rockies want to take right now. I think they want to go more of that contact hitter, just keep the at-bats going, keep the run going. Stop trying to crush the ball out of the yard every single at-bat. If you can get 30 home runs, woohoo, we're all doing backflips. But one of the problems with the Rockies last year was, yeah, they were getting some home runs, but they were all solo home runs. You didn't have guys on base. And if you really want to take advantage of those home runs, then you gotta have guys on base. You gotta have guys that are willing to drive the ball into the gap, get a single, get a double. If you can get a triple down the line, great. You gotta be willing to do the small stuff to get to the big stuff. And so that's where Paul DePodesta, Josh Burns, Warren Schaefer, they're all kind of looking at that. And that's what they're looking for. And Rumfield fits right into that. Now, on the other side, you actually have a little bit of the complete opposite, where you have Charlie Condon, who absolutely has all of the power, all of the, he has, in 8 games, he's had 17 plate appearances with 14 at-bats, off of 7 hits, 5 runs, 500 batting average with a 588 on base percentage, a 1.143 slugging, and a 1.731 OPS. I mean, the dude's driving the ball. The dude is absolutely just driving the ball. The 3 strikeouts, I don't hate it. I don't, it's one of those where it's like, can we cut down the strikeouts a little bit more? But I mean, I'm not gonna. I think when I see, strikeouts, especially with a first baseman, I get PTSD to Michael Toglia, because he had all the power in the world, but God, he was also a strikeout machine. I love the guy. He was a player that I was really excited about. He even went down to spring training and got corrections to kind of help his swing a bit. But he still had that. It eventually just kind of seemed like to regress a little bit to that long, loopy swing he has. And Toglia just wasn't quite able to figure it all out. So I hope he has success elsewhere. I really do. I don't know off the top of my head where he's at currently, but yeah, he is. So whenever I just see a first baseman in strikeouts, I kind of think back to that. But I mean, 14 at bats, you have 3 strikeouts. I guess I can't complain too much now that I'm really taking a deep breath and looking at this. But I'm very excited for this position battle because both players are absolutely taking advantage. I think I give slight edge to Rumfield right now. But if they decided to go with Charlie Condon instead, you're not going to hear me complain a bit. Charlie Condon has a load of power, and he is really, he had that injury last year with the wrist, but if he can stay healthy and he can keep this bat hot, man, oh man, are you gonna hear me excited when I cover these games this season? Charlie Condon really has, he has that good foundation that I'm really excited about, and I just hope he can keep it moving forward. TJ Rumfield he has a hot bat as well, and both are really showing up defensively too. I mean, they're really just, showing that they can pick the ball, they can really hold down first base. I'm I'm not going to be upset. I am not going to be upset at all that it whichever one they go with. I still give the edge to Rumfield right now, and there's still a lot of spring training to play. But I would say right now, I give the edge to Rumfield. But there's still a lot to be excited about this spring training, and I look forward to breaking down this position battle more and breaking down who I think has the edge and who are going into the season, what's going to be happening. So I'm very excited about that. But now let's get into what every Rockies fan is feeling right now. When you talk about, winning over Warren Schaefer, the individual battles with first base, all of that. But what happens when the whole team starts stacking those wins? The Colorado Rockies really have looked sharp this spring. The energy's been great. The bats are showing life. The defenses look good. Young players are flashing. And on paper, it really feels like progress. It absolutely does. But the question that Rockies fans know all too well, how much of this does it actually mean? Is there substance to the Rockies being 6-4 right now in spring training with top 6 in OPS, having quite a few players top 6 in OPS? We've seen this strong spring before. We've seen promising March storylines fade by May. So is this a genuine step forward under a new voice in the clubhouse, or is this just another case of spring training creating expectations that reality can't sustain? I want to zoom out and talk about the Rockies as a whole, the results, the context, and whether this hot start is something to believe in or something to be cautious about. And I think for me, the Rockies, they've scored 25 runs, in the two prior to the two games against the Kansas City Royals and the Cleveland Guardians. They had scored 25 runs in two games. Only the Dodgers have a better record in spring training than the Rockies. I think that's a little bit different now because I'm reading my notes a little bit. I think that's actually a little bit different now after the two losses to Kansas City and Cleveland. Now, 3 Rockies are in the top 6 of OPS. But I'm also telling Rockies fans right now, pump the brakes. Pump the brakes. This is still a team that has a very legitimate chance to lose another 100 games. Very legitimate chance. And they have a very legitimate chance to, just not be great. But there are signs that I'm looking at that I'm going, okay, there's meat to this. There's a foundation, a small foundation, but there is a foundation for the Rockies to build off going into 2027, if there's baseball, and 2028, 2029, hopefully being able to compete 2029, 2030. There's a small foundation there with Sagano, with Rumfield, with getting veterans into the room, with Willie Castro, who he's actually been showing up at second base as well. I'm really liking him. Amador, who is actually a player I meant to talk about, he has some need to prove to do because it's not looking like he's going to be on the 40-man roster come opening day, in my opinion. But the Rockies, they have a foundation that I'm seeing there with these young pitchers, with Zach Agnos, with Seth Halverson, though Seth Halverson really hasn't had that all great of a spring training. But also, I'm giving the pitchers a little bit of a leash on this one because the pitchers, they're working with a whole new pitching staff. They're working with the new philosophy of having a bigger arsenal, trying out new things, going more sinker heavy than just straight fastball, a little bit of a sweeper. They're not doing what they did last year, so they're toying with pitches more right now. So I'm giving the pitchers a little bit of a leeway, but come late spring training, coming into opening day, that leash is going to get much tighter. So I'm not going to harp on pitchers too much, but I am going to harp on hitters. And right now, the hitters are showing up. The hitters are absolutely showing up with Stevens, Veen, Rumfield, and I could probably list off 4 other players. So they're starting to show up. I just don't. Some of them are showing up against AA players, single A players, which are still absolutely good players. But come, especially in April, when you have the Phillies, the Astros, you have the Dodgers, the Padres, all in that first month. What is this team going to look like in April when you're facing Shohei Ohtani, Freddie Freeman, Fernando Tatis, Jose Altuve, when you're facing these big guys, Kyle Tucker, when you're facing, Bryce Harper, Brandon Marsh, and you're facing off with their pitchers, Yamamoto, for God's sakes, Roki Sasaki. What are these Rockies actually gonna be? That's more what I'm curious about. And the Rockies tomorrow, March 2nd, for when I'm recording this, the Rockies are going to be facing the Dodgers, but it looks like with a lot of their roster competing in the World Baseball Classic, it looks like they're just sending a lot of prospects to compete in this game, which makes sense. I mean, practically half their team is in the World Baseball Classic. Yamamoto, Shohei Ohtani, they're down in Japan. And I maybe even think Roki Sasaki are down in Japan right now. You have Freddie Freeman, and you have Freddie Freeman on Team USA. Like, they've got guys every which way on Team Venezuela, Mexico, which the World Baseball Classic is going to be a lot of fun to watch. But so yeah, they're going to face the Dodgers tomorrow, but what Dodgers are they actually facing is my thing. Now, the Dodgers have an elite farm system. I'm not going to deny that. But how much of that elite farm system is really going to produce tomorrow? I am curious to see how the Rockies face up against them. But right now, as much as the fan deep inside of me, because I'm really trying to bring the analytical side of me forward, as much as the fan inside of me deep down wants to be like, the Rockies are crushing spring training, da-da-da-da-da. The Rockies crushed spring training last year, and they had 119 losses. So let's just pump the brakes right now. Let's wait and see where the Rockies are going to go. It's all about a developmental year. It's all about bringing in new ideas, bringing in fresh stuff for these players to try out, bring in a new philosophy, and can they build off of that? That's going to be more what it's looking at. So, in my opinion, if the Rockies can win, 8 games, 9 games in May, I'll be pretty happy. Because April looks nasty. Start of the season looks nasty for the Rockies. So I'm very interested to see that, but yeah, I think that's where I'm going to leave it off. But today we covered a little bit of everything shaping this season, from the impact of the new ABS challenge system and the technology and the continuing of the change to change the way of the game is, players being evaluated, pressure being put on players to try and make their mark this spring. For guys like Zach Veen trying to prove their way that they belong on the 40-man roster. And, these players just battling for roster spots, but also trust with Warren Schaefer. Now, Warren Schaefer does have a past with some of these guys being down in the minor league system. But, there's the bigger picture surrounding the Colorado Rockies. They are having a strong spring training. The vibes are better. I can't deny that. The Rockies have raised their floor, like Walker Monfort and Paul DePodesta have said. They've raised their floor. But how much of that is going to count come April, come May? That's why I'm really loving this time of year, because the hope and the skepticism live side by side. So I really hope you've loved this episode. I've had a lot of fun with this episode. This is easily probably my favorite episode I've recorded so far. So I hope you keep listening. If you love baseball analysis with a little edge, a little realism, and a lot of passion, you've come to the right place. Please like, please subscribe, please follow on, follow my Twitter down below. My Twitter's down below. All the links to where you can find the podcast are down below. This has been Baselines to Sidelines. Nick, out.